All right, I'm here with Farah Bugio. She's one of the artists, one of the many artists at the Nasty Women's exhibit that's going on right now at Bentley's House of Coffee and Tea, right on Speedway, right across from the McDonald's, right near the university. That's going on all month in October. Last week we talked to Katya, the director, or the organizer rather, of the event. And this is Farah, one of the artists that's has an interesting theme going on. Well, I'll let her explain it to you. So, Farah, if you could give us a little background, where you came from, we can start there.
I've been in Tucson for quite a while, but prior to that, I lived in Pakistan for 2 years, and then I was born in Southern California.
Okay, great. So you are a U of A student
Yes.
right now. What are you studying?
I'm studying genetics.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, genetics, nice. What are you looking to do?
I'm not 100% sure.
All right.
I really love basic research and understanding how the natural world works. And there aren't very many options if you're not interested in curing human disease or going into industry. So right now, I'm probably looking to just stay working in a lab, doing bench research.
Yeah, okay, great, all right. So this is a painting exhibit. You're not a painter by trade?
No,
This is
it's a hobby.
It's a hobby, okay. How long have you been painting for?
Probably since sophomore year of college, though I've always loved arts and crafts, and anything that kind of stokes the creative side, probably since I can remember.
Okay, great. So talk a little bit about the experience in Pakistan. So you were there for how many years?
2 years.
2 years, okay. What was that like growing up I guess, in the US, and then sort of doing the second part of growing up in Pakistan and coming back? How was that different?
I mean, I'm not quite sure where to begin. It's certainly formative in making you appreciative for the things that you have, realizing that the plentiful US doesn't exist globally. Additionally, it's really interesting to be a part of two different cultures, especially where feminism is concerned. And today, where some of this racism is concerned in the United States. I really appreciate the culture and respect it. One of the reasons that we moved back to the United States was that my mother was concerned about the opportunities that I would have there and the way I would be treated as a woman. Okay. Especially because I do have that more Western background of being independent and very vocal. So there are elements of my time there and that culture that I really cherish, and other elements that make me grateful that I spent most of my childhood growing up in the United States.
Right, it's interesting. Yeah, rather than being born, growing up there, coming here, it's a lot different experience. You already kind of had the the freedoms they have here, and yeah, interesting. And it's also interesting. So we're here to talk about an event that's devoted to Planned Parenthood. So it's backing Planned Parenthood. So do you think, did that have any impact on your support for women's health and things like that? Growing up in a place where the situation of women is not as, I guess we'll say, free in a sense? Yeah,
I certainly don't want to encourage any negative thoughts about the Middle East or Southeast Asia, but I more or less can't have a relationship with my father's side of the family because I'm very Western and I'm not Muslim, and so I'm, seen, for lack of a better term, it's a sinner. I've been ruined by my Western mother, and rejected my, heritage on my father's side. Actually, I have another series that I contributed to Nasty Women called Terrorist Slut, which has to do with feelings that not just I have, but others have about this Muslim and Western influence and the duality of it. That has definitely influenced me a lot in terms of women's rights, and especially reproductive rights, because I don't think that anybody should dictate what you should do with your body. That's ridiculous. So I think from an early age, yes, seeing the way that women are treated in public, at least in Pakistan, and the way women are treated here has definitely had a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
Although I will say that with Pakistan and other Muslim countries, what you see in public is not what you see behind closed doors. So women weren't necessarily treated poorly or didn't have rights in general. It was
Right,
just,
yeah.
you know, in the public persona. So
Sure. Yeah, that's why I kind of say freedom in quotes. I know it's a lot different than what we're seeing. I met some people who went to Iran and kind of went to house parties and kind of saw how people really lived when they weren't under the surveillance of
yeah,
the government, and you see a lot of commonalities between how we are and there. It's
Yeah.
it's the same thing when you're behind closed doors, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's move on to the Nasty Women's exhibit. That's what it leads to. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but all the proceeds from the gallery, the exhibit this month, all go to Planned Parenthood, 100%. So how did you come to how did you hear about the Nasty Women's exhibit?
I saw a flyer for it in the bathroom in the climbing gym downtown.
Perfect.
I actually recognized the website name Dump Salad. Katya,
It's very,
Yeah.
it sticks in your head, yeah.
she had been talking about needing to find something to put on this website with this great name. So when I realized that it was Katya, I contacted her and offered to donate artwork that I had. Originally didn't have intentions of giving her paintings and drawings of dicks, but that was like a project that I had just started. And so she suggested that I contribute those to the show.
Perfect, that's a good segue.
Because anyone who's watching now is like, what did she just say? Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to
Dicks of Tinder.
There we go. Dicks of Tinder. That's the title of your series.
Yeah.
Well, good time to show this off.
Some of the,
Yeah, a few here. Yeah. So explain, where did you get the idea from?
So I have the humor of a 16-year-old boy. I've always thought that drawing dicks is hysterical. But I had recently gotten out of a really terrible relationship where I was kind of left feeling like maybe I wasn't attractive or desirable at all. And so, you know, seeking male gratification, which I realize is anti-feminism, but everybody does it, I got a Tinder account and quickly realized that I didn't want to date, I needed a break, but I also kind of liked reestablishing this feeling that, hey, I was actually attractive and desirable. So I decided to start soliciting dick pics from guys, and I've also always found art to be meditative and cathartic, so it seemed like a nice healing process in a weird way. But what I didn't expect was that once I started requesting dick pics instead of looking for someone to go on a date with, the way that I interacted with these men changed, and the way they interacted with me changed, and for the most part, it was a really positive experience.
Okay.
Through this process, came to realize that a lot of men on Tinder, well, Tinder in general is just seen as this hookup app, you know,
Yeah.
heartless sex, whatever.
Yeah.
Men in particular get a bad reputation. And it was interesting to talk to some of these guys who seemed like they were just looking for sex, but you know, they had been hurt by girlfriends in the past and wanted long-term relationships in the future, but you know, just wanted some fun, you know, in the moment. And I realized that a lot of that extra stuff gets lost in translation on apps like that. And bigger picture, men have emotions and insecurities just like women, but it's not accepted in society. You know, from a young age, women are allowed to be emotional and vulnerable in public, though shamed for it still somehow, and men aren't allowed to be. And I think that repression manifests itself in really interesting ways. And so what started as just this fun thing of drawing dicks and painting dicks kind of turned into this realization that I think feminism needs to me, feminism is about equality. It needs to include men as well, and this normalization of emotions and insecurities for everyone, because people have those. It's not gender specific. And I don't know, I guess the project kind of evolved from there. I'm no longer seeking dick pics.
Okay, it's done. It's closed. Are they still being sent to you?
Not anymore.
Okay.
So I have an
It's slowed down.
Instagram. Yeah. I have an Instagram where I posted all of this work before giving it to the Nasty Women's Art Exhibition, and so I would get messages from men on Instagram with pictures of their penis asking me if I would paint or draw them. So.
Oh, okay. So you were the go-to.
Well, yeah. at least for the followers and people who came across it. Right. So yeah.
That's cool. Everybody's gonna have a given. I'm gonna put these down. I'm feeling very insecure. All right. So the message, we got that. So did it change from initially, like what you wanted to do initially, and then it became something different, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Initially, I just thought it'd be funny to draw penises.
It was just for the laughs. And
Yeah.
And it took this deeper.
Yeah. It made me reevaluate past relationships. I think a majority of men that I've dated I'm pretty sure all of them have cried in front of me, and probably 90% of them have been really ashamed afterward, telling me, making excuses for why they were crying. Yeah, I was drunk. Don't tell anyone this happened. Like, it just wasn't I cried. Like, I was upset about something, whatever.
It's something I do.
And then penis size, like, it's something you joke about. Like, I joke about with my male friends all the time. It is a legitimate insecurity with a lot of men, and it's like laughed off. But it's an insecurity that's deep enough that I think it actually does cause problems in relationships. And there's this huge misconception that women want huge penises. I don't know where that came from other than pornography, but most of the women I've talked to, it's like, no, that's not an enjoyable thing. I don't want that. And there's almost this, I don't know, weird misogynistic undertone when you mention that to some men, and I don't know how inappropriate I'm allowed to be, but they're like, no, I want to know that a girl is in pain after we have sex and she can't walk right the next day. It's just like penis size is like, taking on this like weird, at least in my experience, of course this is anecdotal, taking on this weird symbol in modern society, in America at least. And this project kind of evolved into that. That's just one manifestation of the insecurities.
Sure.
So actually, that picture that I painted
This one, okay.
is kind of just to comment on penis size and like what would be an otherwise extremely attractive body, and then there's this, tiny little nubbin or whatever, and
it's not proportioned to what we would think.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's people who look like that, right? There's probably many guys who look like that.
Yeah, and so the dicks of Tinder, I think, really, really helped me to realize that there's a huge issue in repression of emotions and insecurity. And of course, penis size came up a lot with this project. There were a lot of men who, I connected my Instagram to the Tinder account, and there were a lot of men who would comment on, was the penis really that large? Or I can't send you a picture of my penis because it's too small, or I'm ashamed. And I appreciate the honesty and like admitting that to a stranger who's seen your face, but yeah.
That was my question when looking at that one.
Oh, so another thing that I learned prior to this project, I think one time I received a dick pic. I know other women receive lots of dick pics, but that had not been my experience.
Yeah.
So during this project, I also learned that there's a certain angle that you can have your camera at to make your dick look larger.
Okay.
Which is hysterical because a lot of my male friends have complained that women have a certain angle for taking pictures to make them look much thinner than they actually are.
Okay.
And that's, deceptive. And when you meet them in person, you're like, what the fuck?
Okay.
So, yeah, that was, I've not seen any of these in person, so I don't
So
know
you
if
don't know what to
they're
compare it to.
angles.
That's
yeah.
a good point. You didn't go and meet them out there. What's the angle? Just so I can tell my friends, not for myself at all.
I'm actually not 100% sure, but my guess is that you put it somewhere out here and I don't know, 45-degree angle up or something.
There you
That's
go.
what it kind of looks
All
like.
right, 45-degree angle. There you go. Guys at home. So
practice it. Find what
yeah,
works
we'll
for you.
experiment. Yeah, sure. Technology, it's always kind of like a chicken or egg thing. Like people say, people are nastier because of social media, things like that. Do you think like apps like Tinder and things like that, like they're making men do things like send dick pics, or do you think it's just this repression? It's just another tool to express that.
I certainly don't think Tinder's responsible for any of this behavior. I think, first of all, in modern society, we live in a very disposable culture. Everything is, single serve, whatever.
Sure.
And I think that Tinder and OkCupid and other online dating, I think they just facilitate that, make it a lot more accessible. I personally am still a little confused by the concept of dick pics because...
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah,
That was my next question, was what do you think possesses you to do something like that?
I mean, I only associate with a specific type of woman, so
Yeah.
my network is very small in that regard to find out whether or not women like this. But from what I understand, women don't like dick pics necessarily. They don't get off on them. I suppose initially, if penis size is a concern of yours, then that's a nice way to determine whether or not you want to
it's like a rating
go
sort of
home
thing.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But dick pics don't work the same way that, I guess, naked nudes for women, when women send nudes to men, it doesn't work the same way. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
As you're saying this, I'm wondering, maybe it's that some guys don't have the ability to understand what a woman likes, and they're like, well, I would like it if a woman sent me naked pictures, so I'm going to send her the same. And I think, maybe that's part of it. It's just the disconnect.
That's certainly one possibility. I understand why none of my male friends would admit to that, but yet I've yet to have a conversation with a chronic dick pic sender and ask them what their motivation is. So.
To get on that. I had one friend who was into doing that. I asked him once. He just said it was because it's fun. That was his simple. I'm sure there was probably layers of things that he didn't even want to get into, but that's the answer he gave me.
To be honest, I've often thought about how much fun it would be to have a dick for a week. So at the climbing gym downtown, there are cubbies that people leave all their stuff in, and they leave their phone in. And I thought it'd just be hysterical to open your pants and just take a picture on some stranger's phone of your flaccid penis and just leave it there. All of these phones. Yeah, I mean, for purposes of fun, I think that's hysterical. But if you're courting someone, I don't know.
All right, so let's move on to Planned Parenthood. So that's what this is all about, supporting Planned Parenthood. So why do you support Planned Parenthood? I'm assuming you do. I'm making an assumption here. If you're submitting work.
I absolutely support it. I think that there's a huge issue with the way that sexual health is taught in school. I think that more conservative element in our society is really concerned with procreation up until the point that a child is born, at which point they don't want to be responsible, And so when you're teaching abstinence and not teaching about safe sex, not giving high school students, condoms or means of having safe sex, then you create this really terrible situation where you have teen pregnancies, and a lot of women especially kind of feel hopeless and aren't sure what to do. And so I support Planned Parenthood because they're offering not just with regards to pregnant women, but they're offering local communities a way of being sexually healthy, offering STD testing and giving people the opportunity to keep themselves healthy. So why wouldn't you support a program that is trying to keep your local community healthy?
When you break it down to that,
yeah.
So moving into Planned Parenthood, so that they're kind of a political lightning rod at the moment. You say Planned Parenthood and it all of a sudden becomes a political thing rather than a public health kind of thing. So what are some of the ways that you've seen that women's health are threatened in today's, we'll say, Trump's America, put it that way?
I mean, first of all, the things that he says about women, the way that his lack of respect for women, and actually any kind of minority, gender or ethnic, has really allowed this surfacing of hate in this country. It's, sure, it was brewing underneath the surface and maybe it wasn't socially acceptable, but especially with his remarks and because of his position currently, it's really kind of been okay to express that. I get really sick and tired that abortion is used in this political game when, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, even Republicans know Roe versus Wade can't be reversed. The amount of damage that would be caused to this country, the outrage, the protesting, it's just a pawn to distract people from really important issues. And it's really irritating to me that we're still doing that we're still voting based on abortion and not real issues. It drives me crazy. Furthermore, again, whatever your personal belief is on abortions, you don't know an individual situation, why they're doing it, whether it's health reasons, whether they were raped or it was a terrible situation. I'm not saying that every abortion in this country is morally justified. I'm not even getting into that, but it's somebody's body. They're the ones that have to carry that child to term if abortions aren't available. They're the ones that have to deal with the consequences. When you give birth to a child, there's this flood of hormones and chemicals that help you bond with the child. Like, this isn't a natural evolutionary thing. So saying, oh, you can give the child up for abortion, adoption, don't kill the child, like, it's not that simple. And it's really enraging that all of the personal issues and dilemma, emotions, mental fatigue, whatever you want to call it, all of that goes into the decision to have an abortion is completely left out in the political arena, and it just becomes this issue of liberal versus conservative, and that's not fair.
Yeah, this kind of artificial divide that it creates.
Yeah.
Some of the issue that shouldn't. Yeah. It's funny when you were saying about the speech, Trump speech, kind of enabling people. It's almost like Tinder. It's like it was already there, but it gave it a tool to express these kind of racist ideas. So
I think in some small way, Trump might be beneficial in that sense because
it's out in the open.
Yeah, and people who maybe didn't think that it was there, didn't think it was as much of a problem, I'm hoping that they realize now that it is, and that we don't live in an equal society. I think African Americans in this country have it the worst. Like, as a woman, there are frustrations, and I know we're talking about Planned Parenthood, but when it comes to inequality, I think Native Americans and African Americans especially, and for people to they've been dismissing that things are getting better, there's equality, affirmative action, whatever. I'm hoping that some of those people, a lot of those people, see now that that's not the case, and maybe in that way, Trump can move us forward into a more peaceful, accepting society, hopefully.
I like that. It's optimistic. So I have one last question, and it's kind of an opinion question, and it's something that blew my mind. So I saw this statistic, 45% of college-educated white women voted for Trump. So after what you're saying here, his speech towards women and the way he looks at that, why do you think that 45% of white women would vote despite that, in your opinion?
So there was a lot of post-mortem discussion after the election, and I think there are lots of reasons. I think more than anything, US citizens are sick and tired of politicians. They see them all as corrupt, and Trump isn't a politician, he's an outsider. And there's absolutely no voting record or any kind of political activity within government to go on when deciding whether or not he's going to be a decent leader. He's just not one of them.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the primary reason why educated women voted for him.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately in this country, voting has become a very emotional thing. We watch campaign ads and listen to debates, and that's pretty much it. And those don't address whether or not the individual has actually, if their voting record matches their plan of action or the promises that they're making. We don't pay attention to any of that. We just pay attention to the emotional pleas they make. And at least I want to believe that that's why Trump was elected, and not because people are actually okay with how hateful he is.
Right, yeah. I mean, a lot of the Trump supporters I've talked to, particularly females, that seems to be what they say. Like, he doesn't really, it's a show, he doesn't really mean what he says, and that's kind of how they looked at it. And still are looking at it, and maybe it's a bit of denial, I don't know, who knows, but that sounds, it kind of lines up with what you're saying in terms of, yeah. So another positive maybe aspect of this is we'll now see that outsiders can be corrupt too. So maybe that's, if you can put a silver lining on the whole thing.
I'm hoping something good will come of this.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there won't be another 4 years. I'm hoping that people will actually go vote in primary elections and realize how important they are. And maybe pay a little bit more attention to facts and not so much emotions. Because it's really easy to just go in and vote as, vote for Democrats across the board. But I do agree, most politicians are looking to get reelected, and they need money to do that, and lots of promises have to be made to people other than the voting public. So corruption is rampant on both sides.
Right, it's kind of built into the system.
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah.
So it takes some work and effort to vote for the lesser of the evils, I guess.
Yeah, well said. All right, anything you coming up you need to plug, or?
No, other
No?
than vote in the primary election.
Vote in the primary to 2018, November, what is it?
Vote informed, regardless of who that's for. Vote informed.
There you go. Facts, not emotions. Look into it. There's sites on the issues or whatever that they compare everyone. Do the work. It doesn't take that long, really, to research who you're voting for.
No.
So, yeah. All right. Very cool. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Again, Farah Bugio.
Bugio.
Oh, the whole time I'm in my head, I'm like,
right.
don't screw this up.
It's okay.
Farah Bugio. Again, the Nasty Women's exhibit's going on all month in October at Bentley's House of Coffee and Tea. It's on Speedway, right near Dirtbags. You all know where Dirtbags is. So come by and see some of this lovely artwork that we see in the back. There's tons more, and it's regularly restocked because Katya got so many pieces that she couldn't put them all up on the wall at once. So if you go by a week later, you're going to see a whole new group of works. So go by there many times this month. We're about halfway through, so you got another half month to check out the work there. So thanks a lot for giving us your time, and
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with your degree.
Thanks.
See you later.